Well, hello, and welcome to Gallifrey's Most Wanted. I'm Ross Aiken. I'm old who.
And I'm David Steele. And what am I? I suppose I'm old who as well. Very much.
Well,
Yeah.
we're going to be doing we're here. Dave's come to join me, and last time we just covered a whole season, but this time we're going to cover an individual story, and we're going to cover the Deadly Assassin, the first Tom Baker story post Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
So sad. She's my favorite companion of all time. She was my first. The Deadly Assassin, Serial 4P. Writer, Robert Holmes. Woohoo! Director, David Maloney. Script editor, Robert Holmes. Producer, Philip Hinchcliffe. Originally aired October 30th, 1976 to November 20th, 1976. Having seen the assassination of the president of the Council of Time Lords in a vision, the Doctor returns to his home world, Gallifrey. There he is pursued by the Chancery Guards, but manages to avoid capture and breaks into the Panopticon, where he actually watches the president being murdered. The Doctor is arrested and convicted for the murder. To escape execution, he proposes himself as candidate for the presidency. Having convinced Castle and Spandrell that he is innocent, the Doctor discovers that his old enemy, the Master, is behind the plot. To find out who has been aiding the Master, the Doctor has to fight for his life in the fantasy world of the amplified pantropic computer, also known as the Matrix, where he defeats the real murderer, Chancellor Goth. The Master, whose body has reached the end of his regeneration, seizes the instruments of the presidency to tap the power needed to start a new cycle of lives. But if he releases the power of the black hole kept captive under the Panopticon, Gallifrey will be destroyed. The Doctor succeeds in defeating the Master, who escapes. This is the first story featuring the Master since Frontier in Space, QQQ, and last until Keep Trackin' 5T. Another great synopsis from the Doctor Who Program Guide, the complete guide to every Doctor Who story by Jean-Luc Moffassar. Thank you very much, Jean-Luc.
The Deadly Assassin is the first Doctor Who story I remember.
Really? Like
Yeah.
you saw it in like live when it aired, or when it
Yeah.
did a repeat?
Well, this is the thing. This is a good story for me to tell. I remember it going out. I think would it have been what, 76 or I think it was 76. So I was very young, but there's certain elements of it I remember clearly. I remember the GI Joe Action Man inside the telescope. This is how I registered it. I remember the clown under the sand, the horse in the gas mask, the little train, because in a park near where I lived called Barshaw Park, there was a little miniature railway which you could ride around on, and the trains, closing in on the Doctor reminded me of the Barshaw Park train. I remember lots of images from it, but the thing was, approximately a year later, in August 1977, they repeated it, and I'm able to sort of work out. I was able to work out exactly when this had been one night, because we have a couple of large group family photographs from the night part three was repeated, because I can remember what I remember most about that evening was that we're at my Aunt Margaret's house, my dad's little sister's house, because they were about to move down to Southampton the following day. My cousin Mark, my cousin Elaine, my uncle Ian, Mark, Margaret. Hi to all of you if you're listening. They might well be. And I remember the Deadly Assassin being repeated because I remembered remembering it. I remembered knowing that the horse in the gas mask was coming and anticipating the clown under the sand and all of that. So I when I've seen Hand of Fear on home video or whatever, I didn't remember it. But the Deadly Assassin is the first one that really sticks in my head. And getting the VHS in 1991 when that was released was quite a big deal. That was quite exciting.
Yeah, this is because the way I got Doctor Who delivered, this was in that initial Time Life batch that I was watching out of Baltimore, and then when we got it as omnibuses from Howard University's channel, they started with Tom again.
Yeah.
And I just remember that he didn't have a companion was weird. I even knew it was weird. I mean, by then I had gotten Doctor Who magazines.
Yeah.
I had like behind me, you can't see it, but I've got issue 1 with the stickers still on it, framed, and I've got number 50 framed because that had the first episode guide I ever had. So it's got notes in it where I had shit
Right.
and stuff, that what I'd seen and what I hadn't seen and what was available and not available. Because I was
Right.
going down that they destroy their TV shows. What the hell are you doing? Because in this country, we save everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got most of everything. So it was
Yeah.
weird. And I just remember this one being, I didn't take it that I'd never seen one like this, but this one was kind of, there's something different about this one. And watching it twice in the last 24 hours, I caught that and I watched the documentary on the Blu-ray because it had a little bit of magic. It's the old documentary from the DVD.
Sure.
They didn't do a new one for this story, but I had White House up there spewing her simple shit. We had the same thing over here going on with TV.
Doctor Who drowning. So yes, I remember that cliffhanger. I mean, Doctor Who, I was at the age of 3, 4, 5. I was still, I think the last time I had bad dreams about Doctor Who was in Tom's last series, The Marshmen in Full Circle. Scared the shit out of me. I had bad dreams about them for years. And I became friends with Andrew Smith years later, and he was delighted when I told him. But the other thing I remember is the Master, because when the Master came back and Keeper of Track, and I recognised him, I remembered that cowl and that
yes,
cape.
and this is the first Master story I ever saw.
I remembered the image of him, but I didn't. At the age of 3, I had no idea who, because I was born like 3 months before Roger Delgado died. So I mean, it's not
so
like
you didn't see a Delgado Master until when they did one of those repeat seasons, right?
I think the first time what was the first one of his stories that I saw? It might have been. I remember in '92 they repeated the Sea Devils and Claws of Axos came out on VHS very close together. I think that's probably that probably would have been the first time that I'd seen him. The thing I always remember was that he died. And we've talked in the past, you and I, about how you and my dad share the same birthday, and obviously you share it with Ian Martin and Matt Smith. But my friend at school, Robin, was born on the day that Delgado died, and the only reason I recognise that because Robin and my mum had the same birthday, and Paul McCartney, obviously, as I've said many. No, so first, I'm pretty sure the first time I saw Delgado wasn't until probably '92 at the earliest. I mean, I remember Ainley coming in. I remember keeping track, and I saw all of his stories. Anthony Ainley's my master.
See, and I talked to like Jeff and other guys that have been in the podcast. They're all around your age. And that's Ainley. And I had to kind of learn to appreciate Ainley after listening to some of his cast members talk about him. And then during the last rewatch during the pandemic, I went, he is being hamstrung by what he's been asked to do. Because when you see him in the last 2 times he appeared, he's not they're just leaving him the fuck alone.
Yeah.
And he's doing what he wants to do, which is, it's less blah ha ha, but he's not trying to be Delgado. He's really amoral. That's
what I think's good about him. He doesn't cosmetically, they gave him a goatee beard, which and I sort of looked at the kind of collar style that kind of echoed what Roger wore. But they didn't get him to play him the same way. I mean, Delgado's very chill, he's very charming, very urbane. You're right. I mean, you can see it straight away in Legopolis. He's unhinged. He really is. And the Doctor has to kind of be very careful around him. And I think that the character it's a fascinating concept what they do with the Master. They have him, at the end of his regeneration cycles. Also, when you think about it, it's a little bit tasteless. Having this decaying corpse when Roger had died like 3 years earlier.
Well, I mean, that's something. Let's talk about it. I'm going to jump to folks. We're going to jump to the synopsis to get back because I kind of want to start at the beginning because I kind of agree with you on that point. All right, so that's the synopsis. I want to start with Star Wars had come out. Oh no, it hadn't in the scroll. Oh. That's right, because that's what I was thinking. That's when I watched it. Oh, they copied this, and then I went. No, wait a minute. This came out a year before that.
Yeah, Doctor Who did it first.
Yeah, they did it first. I forgot how different this one. I may be projecting something onto it. I mean, I watched it late last night, and then I got this morning and watched it again, and I have, and I've said it, I'm still suffering from Tom Baker burnout as an early fan. That, I have some, I push back that I prefer anything but Tom. I've seen Tom so much, I get bored with it. But when I watch it, I go, yeah, but it's still some of the best the show's ever been. I got it,
Yeah,
it
I,
is where, and then that groove and Hinchcliffe and Holmes.
yeah,
I mean, this is so different than
yeah,
anything that's gone before.
yeah,
Um, the,
yeah,
one, just a story.
yeah. You've
I,
got, and it's directed by David Maloney with designs by Jim Aitchison, I think, and Roger Murray Leach. So
Yeah, it is. I read the production people. I went, Oscar winner, one
yeah.
of probably the best set designer for Doctor Who
It's
classic.
last when I did my big rewatch and I was watching the Hinchcliffe Holmes stuff. I was struck by I think the Pertwee era is more consistent, but the quality of stuff in the Hinchcliffe Holmes era is untouchable. It never gets unless I think maybe except from apart from the later Cartmel stuff. I don't think it's ever as good as this at any other point. The Robert Holmes stories, when you watch it all, when you watch Tom's stuff, all one after the other, the Robert Holmes stories, they kind of stick out like a sore thumb because the quality of dialogue and characterization is just so much richer than
And
anything else.
he does different types of stories, and
Yeah,
he does it in different formulas. This one is the Manchurian Candidate. This one is a fucking thriller
yeah,
with a nice science fiction thing to get them off
yeah,
outside.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's right.
the guest cast is fuck
Yeah,
all. There's not a bad actor in the bunch.
not
And
a sing-
I really thought Peter Pratt was much better watching it this time than I had thought in the past.
the really interesting thing about it, not a single female guest cast
Yeah,
member,
that's a little bit. I do kind
which
of
is
find why there isn't.
interesting. So I think probably raises more eyebrows now than it did at the time. It's it's I think it's certainly that season, Tom's third season. I think it's the most adult Doctor Who ever got. You've got, with maybe the exception of, that whole year, because Seeds of Doom tops out the previous series, and that has some really grim deaths and some really
I think
adult.
that's one of the greatest Doctor Who stories ever
Oh yeah,
told. That's one I can watch over and over again.
I think the run from sort of Seeds of Doom through to Horrifying Rock, and in my humble opinion, is probably probably the best in the whole series run. Mask of Mandragora is a bit wobbly. Face of Evil runs out of steam, but you've got stuff like Wing Chang and Robots of Death, and the performances, the design, the commitment of everyone involved. I don't.
Yeah, you're right.
The commitment of everyone involved to make a good show, I do not think is equaled again until the final two seasons of McCoy with Andrew Cartmel, because season 24, which is my favourite McCoy series, my favourite Doctor Who story of all time, is in it. But they're still figuring out what they want to do.
Which one's your favorite?
Delta.
That's an odd for okay. I like Delta. I had to. I every time I watch Delta,
I'll
I
come back
kind of
on.
go, I'm gonna hate this, and then I go, I really love this.
I'll come back on another time and we'll talk about it. But
Oh,
I think the Hinchcliffe Holmes period, it's all cylinders, and the program was doing really really well. And it was obviously, but it's stuff like the violence and Deadly Assassin kind of bit them on the ass because obviously Mary Whitehouse made so much noise that the BBC listened to her. Hinchcliffe was moved over to another program. Graham Williams was moved over. There was an effort to dial back the kind of the grimness and make it a lot lighter and brighter. As you say, Star Wars opened. The influence of Star Wars is there straight away because suddenly there's a lot more guns firing laser beams than there's ever been before. The K9 comes in and all that sort of stuff.
and there's some mishaps. There's some really because I just got where we don't get our Blu-rays like way you do. We don't get the cardboard box. We get the clamshell. We get it earlier, but we still get it. I won't see the clamshell for 25 until the next one, your next one, cardboard comes out. But we got the latest. We got season.
The box ones.
We got the clamshell for Fang Rock, whatever his fourth season.
Yeah.
And I've never liked Invisible Enemy. The fucking prawn. I don't like seafood, and the giant prawn.
Have I told you before? Like I have never eaten a prawn in my life because of the end of part 3, The Invisible Enemy.
It's so
It's
terrible.
I was listen, mate, I was 4 years old, right, and it scared
And
me
you
to
thought it
death.
was crap.
I was, I was 4 years old living in Paisley, not the height of system, not the height of sophistication, and it scared me to death. It was horrible.
Really?
Yeah,
I
mate,
saw it as a grown man, so I was just like
four,
going, "That's terrible, puppet."
4 years old, and I'd never seen it. I'd never seen it. So even to this day, if I see a prawn on someone's plate, I'm like, get that away from me. But we can talk about that. I mean, yeah,
Oh, but yeah, but you're right. I think it is. I think it's more adult. I think everything in these is safe for kids. This one's a little grimmer.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, there's this little run. There's sympathetic characters die. Like Runcible gets stabbed in the back, which is horrible. And then the sympathetic, the seems a lot of nasty stuff happens through Wing Chang and Robots of Death and Fang Rot. I mean, it's one thing that I found watching it again struck me compared to modern Doctor Who is that it's very uncompromising when it comes to death. Stephen Moffat hardly let anyone die in his stories. Or they they die or get revived straight away, and it's quite grim. And it's a weird one because I was so young when I watched it. I probably didn't take in any of the story at all. But watching it for me is very nostalgic because it reminds me that a lot of it really highlights to me how much attitudes to a lot of things have changed on television over the years. I mean, this is nearly 50 years old, but it's like very uncompromising. It's very violent. Everyone that I think Mary Whitehouse had a point, to be honest. It's compared to the almost fantasy violence of the Third Doctor and the Master's sword fight in the Sea Devils, where it's all played. Is the violence in Deadly Assassin Part 3 is vicious. And it's absolute nightmare fuel. Forcing a gas mask, the clown. I mean, I'm not someone who's scared of clowns. I like clowns, but it's that juxtaposition thing of the Doctor in the desert and hearing the water, and you think, all right, he's going to try and find some water so he needs to revive himself, and he wipes the sand away, and you see a clown's face. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah, see, and that's what I kind of like. I think it's uncompromising and it makes you uncomfortable. I agree. They show you death because before this, you see someone dead. You saw dead bodies, but you don't see the people die. Or there's a really flashy special effect, and you see their skeleton and they fall down.
Yes,
it's unrealistic.
Yeah.
But I think this one, what gets me is one, I am an unrepentant fan of Robert Holmes.
Yeah.
I think he is in classic Who, he is the Shakespeare of Doctor Who. His scripts, for the most part, flawless. Even his weak ones are better than someone else's.
Yeah, and that's what I said. Like when I did my complete rewatch, I was really aware. Even the weaker stories in execution, like the Sunmakers, just the level of wit and thought that was in the script.
See, I love the Sunmakers because I think it's the closest you get to parody.
Yeah.
It's a dark comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, I just it kind of bugs me a little bit because it's horrible to look at because it's just so yellow and brown and orange. It's very, very 70s UK. But the other point I wanted to make about the Deadly Assassin and Tom's third series is that Tom is still taking it seriously. The following season, he's still taking it seriously in Fang Rot, but you get to like Image of the Fendal and he starts looking at the camera and saying, "We've got 3 minutes," and holds up 4 fingers, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, he doesn't have a boss who's willing to go. I don't.
Screwdriver won't get me out of this one. He's reached a point by his fourth series where he's getting a bit. What can I do to make this interesting for myself? Whereas in his third series, stuff like the Deadly Assassin or his Peking Homunculus speech in Wing Chang. The Peking Homunculus was a toy plaything. It was a gift for the ambassador, the Ice Age, something of the year 5000, all that stuff. Tom is still taking it deadly seriously, and I think that makes a difference. Once he starts, and I'm a big fan of the comedy stuff, especially when you get into stuff like the Androids of Tara, when he has the line, "Would you mind not standing on my chest? My hat's on fire." That wipes me out.
The Key to Time series is the one he is on. I think it's another time where he's got enough good material, and they're feeding the comedy because they wanted to lighten it.
There's in the same story. He's got a brilliant line. It's very 70s sort of thing where he sort of says, "Have you tried your local Android dealer?" Which is hilarious, but you can tell Tom's having fun. and that I think after a while that starts to undermine it. The humor that you get in season 14 is it's often very dark, and there'll be irony, there'll be a grim irony, there'll be a passing comment when someone dies, or gentle humor in the characterizations rather than double takes or silly expressions or obvious jokes. And I think what makes the Deadly Assassin so effective is that although there's light moments when you see maybe the Doctor sketching the other people in the courtroom, or when he's having a bit of banter with Coordinator Engen, and you can tell that Tom's really enjoying those scenes. The 9 out of 10 joke from Baruza, the Doctor takes it absolutely seriously. He is, you believe that the Master is a threat, that the Master could harness Gallifrey and could destroy them. The earthquake in Part 4 and all that is very, very believable. And Tom taking it seriously is a big part of that. Obviously, everyone else taking it seriously, the direction, the design, it all really helps to sell it.
Yeah, I think the level of the cast is. I think there's a lot of very good casting in this period too. This is like probably one of the best casts he's ever given, the guest cast, because the quality of actors of all of them, This is the Barusa I like. I don't like the other Barusas.
Yeah,
I like this. Is they had it? I would have rathered him stuck around. Yeah, I loved Engen, and George Pravda, who plays.
Yeah,
he's fucking amazing. And then Goth, who's been in it. This is his third one at this point. Yeah, he's all. I'm always happy when he's in it. I love him in. He's in Three Doctors. He's one of the Time Lords.
Bernard Horso.
Yeah, he's in the Mind. He's in the Mind Robber.
He's in the Mind Robber in the War Games, Planet of the Daleks.
He's in War Games.
Yeah, he's one of the Time Lords at the trial.
Oh, that's it. He's in the War Games, not Three Doctors.
I don't think he's in the Three Doctors, but one of the other Time Lords.
That's why I got mixed up. They were in the same costume.
One of the other Time Lords at the trial is in the Three Doctors, and I think one of the Time Lords in Colony in Space is in the Three Doctors. So I love all that stuff. It's great when that
and he's great in Ghostlight.
He's a really good actor, Bernard Horso, and it's interesting to sort of speculate that he's playing the same character that he is in the War Games. But chance that Goth was one of the people at his trial. I mean, it could be. Why not?
Yeah, why not? And he does a really good job. I mean, because when I saw it the first time, I never think he's the patsy.
Yeah.
They hide it because, I mean, sometimes, with these things, they don't. It's a kid show. You don't want to make it too complicated.
Yeah.
They've got to be able to figure out the puzzle. It's not fair if they can't figure it out.
Yeah. Because
if you show a kid something and they know they're smart enough to know that, well, he can't be that because he did this. They can figure it out like an adult can.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's a very thoughtful piece. And Tom's I think my thing with Tom is by the end, Graham Williams doesn't put any control on him. He lets him be him.
Yeah.
He's more worried about the other instructions he's been given. Tone it down. Tom's funny. Let Tom be funny.
Yeah,
that'll help. Because I think I'm not as big a fan. I like the Key to Time series, except the last story. And there's bits and pieces in the Graham Williams that I like, but I think Tom doesn't. I don't think Tom's not really good again until you get to 18.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, because Turner's on going, no, Tom. He's like, Tom, I need you to. It's your last year. You need to focus.
Yeah, because there was a quote. There was a really good quote from John Nathan Turner, which he said a couple of times, was that he felt deteriorated into becoming the Tom Baker show, rather than Doctor Who. And there's still a great deal of funny stuff in season 18. There's some really witty dialogue, but you get the sense that at least he's playing it seriously again. And as much as I love City of Death and moments like that, you've got to be in the right mood for it. And there's some stuff in Nightmare of Eden and Hansa Naimon, which is just like, oh, come on, stop dicking about.
Yeah.
But, that's not the case in Deadly Assassin at all. I mean, there's humour through it, like the two old Time Lords and the Doctor stealing, their
Oh yeah,
uniform.
his coat. Yeah, aren't you gold? What do you mean?
Yeah, and
Um,
stuff like when he tricks the guards when they come into the TARDIS, and the TARDIS still in that beautiful brown mahogany sort of effect, which is just gorgeous.
God, I love that. I love that console room. I'm so fat. Dude, come on, man. You're the BBC. You should know how to store a fucking set.
Well, what the thing is, what ended up, I think, I can't remember who it was that worked it out, but someone worked out that basically they didn't, it wasn't that the walls warped. They just made the decision to change it back because I think the walls that were used for the brown set were basically just repainted and used. Some of the panels were reused in the sort of set that they used from season 15 onwards. But
Oh, really?
I love it's such a subtle thing with that control console, and it suits the obvious sort of the Hammer horror sort of Sherlock Holmes vibe that they go for in a lot of these stories.
Oh, yeah. I think it suits
The,
him.
the
I
mahogany
think it
panel.
really suits his Doctor.
I like the sort of the dark wood sort of effect. All my bookcases are dark wood. My couch is dark brown leather. I like that sort of. I like that sort of look. It's design is a I think a major part of the impact in Deadly Assassin because it's all very consistent. You can really believe that these people wear these clothes and they live in this place.
Oh, and
You know,
it's such a good design that when they bring them back in the modern Who, they're like, oh no, we're going to actually use some of those old costumes.
yeah, and
We're
it's
just,
it's also interesting for what it does with the Time Lords because they hadn't been in it for a few years at this point. The last time they've been in it had been in the Three Doctors. There've been references to them here and there and all this, but this is the first time the Doctor's visited Gallifrey or his home planet since the War Games. First time, he's gone back on his own and all that sort of stuff. And the Time Lords that we've seen previously, I know a lot of people at the time were quite upset with how it portrayed the Time Lords, but when you see them previously, especially in Colony in Space, especially in Three Doctors in the War Games, in fact, that's the only ones you do see them in. They do seem like bureaucrats that are all.
They are but because the guy in the first Master story, who's hovering, he's got the bowler hat, he's got the umbrella. Yeah. That's your our civil servants. That's what I always like. Your civil servants look like Reese Mogg.
Yeah.
And ours look like fat. They're normally fat,
right,
and slothful, a little like some spray tan piece of shit.
Yeah.
But it's they are, and I read all the perceived wisdom. The one good thing about the internet and fans meeting each other over the internet and instant thing is some of perceived fan wisdom we're all force fed in the Haney books and some of like that. Some of that stuff we're allowed to kind of reevaluate it. Is the complaint was that the Time Lords are horrible bureaucrats and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yes, but if you're going to show, I mean, that's shorthand. We all do that with, the Doctor has always fought the people in charge. And of course, it makes sense that he would run away from these people. Yeah. They're bored. Yeah, they're so all powerful. We're going to keep everything in order. We're about order. It's this Kafka Dickensian, thing of the man.
Yeah, that sense of an old established university that hasn't changed its staff in decades and all that sort of thing. I mean, what you're saying is absolutely right. I mean, look at the entire middle section of the Troughton era when he's just dealing with bureaucrats and control freak bosses, and be it in the Ice Warriors or in the Fury from the Deep or whatever. He's always had that kind of, as you say, coming up against the people in charge. And this time, the people he's coming up are the people in charge at home. I mean, I love the fact that and it's never really gone away. Is when he sort of he puts himself forward to be president. I'm not sure if that has any bearing in real life legislation or anything. I wonder why that's. A certain tango-faced man gets away with murder because because of this.
Because they keep trying to put. I think what happens is other people they feel. I think what's later Time Lord stories is they feel they have to touch on this one and then Invasion of Time. They feel like they have to build on it where instead of just ignore it and tell your own story.
Yeah, I mean, Invasion of Time follows on from it very, very closely. It's very impressive when you watch Invasion of Time. that the effort they make with the sets and such like. And it's a shame, as you say, that they couldn't get the same lad back as Baruza. But it's interesting. We should talk about more about that because it's interesting because I think the guy who's playing Baruza, he doesn't seem that much older. He seems maybe of an age of Tom, and it's interesting the way the Doctor sort of defers to him, and you get the sense that maybe this Baruza's already regenerated since the Doctor knew him. I think the guy in Invasion of Time is I think he's probably the second best of them.
Because the first two, they have something to do, and they fuck him up in the Five Doctors. He doesn't need to be the bad guy. Yeah,
the guy, I think Leonard Sachs and Argo Infinity is pointless. It adds nothing.
Oh, he's just Flavia's got more to do in that story than he does.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's a good 6 years after Invasion of Time, 5-6 years. So just having him be Baruza just to please the people like Ian Levine and all that sort of stuff that cared about such things. They should have just made him the president and no one would have cared. And then, as you say, the Five Doctors, only has an impact because he'd been, it's undercut by having another actor play him. But it kind of only works because he'd been in Ark of Infinity. It only works because all the little Doctor Who spods had read the novelizations of Deadly Assassin and Invasion of Time and knew who he was. That's the only reason that when you watch Five Doctors that it has any impact, if you remember these old stories.
Yeah, I'm not. I think because he's so good in this, and I'm a big fan of. It's because of my older brother turned me in the comics. Also gave me movies. There's a movie called Goodbye, Mr. Chips.
Yeah.
There's a Robert Downey one, the black and white one, which is a beautiful love story and a great movie. And it really allowed me to, because I didn't know what privates, these y'all's privates, we don't have that except if you're fucking super rich and you live in New England.
Sure.
It's something that is not translated over here. Private school, you still come home, you're just you're more the jocks from Revenge of the Nerds than you are prep school boys. But I'd always, and even the musical with Peter O'Toole, that they let him do 2 musicals.
Yeah.
Fuck all this. But to me, he's the old school teacher. I got that real vibe. And I kind of like that Tom he's the only person Tom defers to.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's is, really, and you buy it.
Because there's that line, you'll never amount to anything as long as you maintain your propensity for vulgar facetiousness, which is great. Big words. It's Robert Holmes having fun, but it really, you absolutely believe that Baruza has known the Doctor for hundreds of years and had to deal with him when he was a kid and he was a pain in the arse. And
so he's still, because I love that, because it's that thing of, I'm 60 years old, just turned 60, but if my dad was still around, I would defer, I was a little, when he got old and a little, he wasn't as verbal. He was always still there. I got to be like, hey, old man, you have to do what I say now. All right. Yeah. So, but he just looked at me like, fuck you. Okay, whatever. He was there, but it was like, you got to do it. I'm afraid of your wife more than you're afraid of your wife. So you're going to do what I say. But it's that thing is, me and my wife are talking about, do you feel old or when you get older? It's like, no, because I look in the mirror and I see old me, but in my brain, I'm still like 30-year-old me.
Yeah. I have that conflict quite often. So sometimes I've been feeling it a bit more because, I think you and I have talked about this off cameras that we're very much the sort of father figures for a lot of people in our respective workplaces. And that has sort of made me, I've reconciled myself with it very well, but that for a while, that made me feel sort of, oh God, right, well, I'm not the same age as all these boys anymore. In your head, just laugh.
So it really freaked me out with the joke, the pop joke, which is running rampant the last. You saw the picture that one of my agents colored in a Papa Smurf picture and stuck it at my door before she went out. She wasn't going to be there the day I saw it, so I will be talking to her on Monday when I go back to work. But but it said Papa Ross, but they call me Pop. And a real close friend of mine and Leslie's, she had her daughter last year, June. The kid baby's name is June, and we call it Junebug. But she's decided at my 60th birthday party, she said, "Oh, we're telling June to call you Pop." And I'm like, and my wife was like, how do you feel about that? It's like, I love babies. She can call me Pop Pop.
Yeah.
I love little kids. I
I
will
just
be giving her comic books when she's older. So,
yeah,
and Doctor Who stuff.
I had this sort of thing a couple of years ago when one of the lads that works with us in my job is doing the events and stage crew and all that was moving, but he was moving back up to Aberdeen. And he sort of said, can we get a coffee before I go? And I was like, yeah, cool, man, because I was going to miss him. He was a good lad. He worked very well. I got on very well with him. I just thought of him, as one of the guys. And he says, yeah, got to have a coffee with my work dad before I go. And it made me sort of think, oh. And I was talking to my friend Kelly about it, and because someone else made the same someone else introduced me to their girlfriend as their work dad, and I was like, right, I just thought we were pals. And I was saying this to Kelly. I said, like, this is fucking, I'm work dad. And she was like, well, how old are you now? And I was like, well, I'm 50. She's like, right, how old are these kids that you're talking about working with? And I'm like, well, 20, 22. She's like, right. So when you were 20 and 22, did you know older people at work or? And I was like, yeah, well, there was Pete Root in the comic shops and stuff. And then and I went, that's who I've become. Without realizing I've aged into that sort of mentor sort of figure, and I love it now. I am worked on an international scale. If bands come in from New York or wherever or overseas to Glasgow and like they want to carry something down a certain flight of stairs or take it in the lift, I'm saying no, we take it this way because it won't fit if you take it that way. And they go, oh right, okay. And I'm like, check me out being worked at.
Well, I mean, I've been a boss all my life, and now in the last couple of years, I'm so much older. I remember when I turned 50, and I went, God, middle age sucks. And Victoria went, you're not living to 100. I was like, fuck you. You know what? Well, with better chemistry, who knows? But yeah, I like back to Bruce. I like that Tom did. I like the procedural part. In this household, there is either Doctor Who or superhero shit on TV or Law and Order.
Yeah.
And I love that the Castle was actually a cop in this.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a cop, and there was a mystery to solve, and that the Doctor had sidekicks, and the sidekick had a sidekick with Engin. They're so good. Me, as somebody who wanted to be an actor, the acting in this for a simple children's show, and I don't mean that as a derogatory thing. Children's shows are important. This is a very important children's show in television history, because it is formulative of now 4 or 5 generations.
Yeah, yeah.
That they get their moral compass from it, and I don't want to say this is the most adult, but this is the one that I don't have to kind of turn off my adult brain at any point in it. And I saw it first as a teenager, so I would have seen it 2 years after it was on, maybe 8.
Right.
So 78, I would have been 14.
Yeah.
So, my brother it showed me shit I shouldn't have seen, but I got taken to aliens at an inappropriate age. I saw the Altered States when I was like 15.
Yeah, it's a big brother's job to do that, though. I remember getting my sister to watch An American Werewolf in London when she was 9.
I just watched that last week. God, that movie's good.
buying her VHSs of the Nightmare on Elm Street films for her birthday when she was like 13 or 14 or something like that. Because she wanted them. I was like, right, okay.
Yeah. Spectre comics, those 70s Spectre comics. I mean, that's Huey. You shouldn't have done that because that shit gave me fuck. That was nightmare fuels.
Yeah.
Sidebar, I bought the complete Phantom Stranger omnibus.
Oh, good.
It was $50 on sale. I was like, I gotta have it.
Bargain.
I've never read most of it.
A lot of good stuff, and it's got I think the only thing in it I don't have is House of Secrets issue 150, but it doesn't have I think it misses out a World's Finest story.
Does it?
240.
Yeah. I forgot he was a backup in Swamp Thing for a while. That's all in there. So yeah, but it's neat. But I like this one because Best Deadly Assassin because of the tone, and I think this rewatch I want to ask you about Peter Pratt. I always kind of dismissed him for early Decay Master because one, Jeffrey Beavers, his voice is just and it's and that's just the luck of the draw. You know what I mean? Peter Pratt, but I think Peter Pratt does a very good job.
I think he's terrific.
I think he's really good. This is the first time I've actually kind of not tried to. I was just in the moment when I was watching it these two times.
Yeah.
A lot more so than, sometimes I'm really trying to look for stuff. Some of these that I've seen a lot, it's like, how much is going to come back? Muscle memory. Can I read a comic book while watching it? Because I've been spending this vacation jumping around, reading comics. I've been sharing what I'm reading.
Yeah.
I'm done with this. I'm gonna read some X-Men. I have not done any X-Men for the podcast. I've none.
Ooh.
Done no X-Men in a comic book team podcast because I'm going to do an episode on one, but I don't know if I need a guest, but I'm going to start doing that. So I was trying to do when I was watching it, but I got enthralled in it last night. And then I went to sleep. Fuck all terrible. I had nightmares like crazy last. One of those nights where you just like, fuck it, I'm going to stay up because if I fall asleep, I'm going right back into that. It may be anxiety about the election. It may be, I maybe smoked a little too much stuff because I've been on vacation. But I got up and I was really enthralled, and he was so good. Every aspect of this thing, I didn't see any of the normal flaws I forgive in Doctor Who. Okay, this should have been trimmed. This was too long since I am watching it in the 4 parts, but I've never really watched it with taking a break between a part. I've just always kind of watched it straight through. It's 90 minutes. It's easy, but it just felt perfect. And he was so much better. Everything works. The comedy, it starts lighter and it starts heavy. He's got a big quandary. What's going on that gave me? How did someone send this memory to me? Yeah. That's scary. Then it goes into give Tom something quiet and light to do. Let's do the comedy bits. Heck, the spinoff podcast of this that I did with my buddy Jeff was the Runcible Report, because we liked Runcible so much. And it was like, he's a good character and he dies horribly.
Oh, he's horrible.
But you feel him die. You kind of, I liked him. Oh, the doctor had that. We all had that guy in high school we went who becomes the Ponzi little dude, and it's funny, the robes and letting Tom do it. But when he gets the gun, everything, it just, I'm watching him on a big screen. So and you see it and it's kind of, wow, that set looks not as good as a modern set or even like a high-end set would look. But I think it's a great set design. It works. There's a reason they really just take it out of mothballs in Invasion of Time.
Yeah, I mean, I think they go back to using the same. I think they reuse the same design drawings and stuff. Are we still recording? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
The icon vanished from the screen because I was cleaning out a notification. No, I think to go back to what you're saying about Peter Pratt, I think it's very effective because he's not getting to do any of the stuff that Ainley and Delgado do when he uses his good looks and his stylish clothes to kind of, and his, Anthony Ainley's even before Survival, he's very feline in the way that he moves, and it's very effective. You really do believe that he is this desperate and he's at this, he's at the end of his tether. But I'll agree with you. Jeffrey Beavers is brilliant. When I was doing the voice for The Mist, when we did Brave and the Bold 61 a few years ago, or 60, whichever one it was, I just did my Jeffrey Beavers impression. Anytime we get to have to do a creepy monster type, a creepy old guy voice. So to do Jeffrey.
Oh, Beavers. I love Jeffrey Beavers, that they use him a lot as a master in the Big Finish. He's great. Yeah. And those masterful sets are actually pretty good because it made me like Eric Roberts' master because they let him be just really fucking evil.
Yeah. I wanted to get a hold. I'll probably get the Eric Roberts stuff maybe the next time it goes on sale.
It's okay. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I like Chase Masterson. She's in it.
Yeah.
She's from Deep Space Nine. But he's really good in that master one because he does something horrible to the Jeffrey Beavers one. Even though he's a regeneration after that, he does something horrible to him for pleasure, and that's the kind of the master that I think I feel that Pratt kind of creates his own little master. He's desperate. I don't have time for these silly games. I don't care. Goth is a tool.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's an interesting sort of thing is that not many people pick up on this, but the final shot of the whole story is that and that's another thing that I remembered about it was the grandfather clock
Yeah.
fading out.
And his
The,
face in it.
the face that you see on the clock face isn't the emaciated, decayed sort of thing. You can see that he's starting to heal. You can see that he's starting to, it's normal flesh tones. It's, you can see that he's regenerating after his exposure to all of the stuff. So it was a shame that wasn't really. It was interesting that they chose in Keeper of Traken to follow up on that and put him back in the same shawl and do a similar sort of makeup. I mean, I always remember the cover of the novelization in the library in Paisley, in Fox Bar Public Library when I was a kid, because the two big fried egg eyes.
Yeah. The Marty Feldman eyes.
Yeah, he is. It's terrifying. It's in many ways it's quite similar to the Morbius monster, quite similar to Davros. I mean, when you watch Genesis of the Daleks, it's like this is a husk. This is an emaciated corpse that has just been animated by computers, and it's like, he is dead. So, but when Terry Malloy gets hold of it, he's a lot more fluid. Literally, he looks a lot. He just looks like a latex mask. He doesn't look like how he does in Genesis, which is a dead body. And
yeah,
the Master in Deadly Assassin is essentially, the crispy master. I've heard some people refer to him. He looks like he's been, on a barbecue or hasn't been using sunblock at any point.
Oh yeah.
Pardon the pun. He's in such a state of decay that he's got so desperate that he's had to trick the Doctor and going home so that he can try and steal the power source of his home planet. I think he's probably on his way to being unhinged at that point, and maybe there's not too much space between that and Keeper of Traken for him. But it's a really interesting idea, because I'm sure I read somewhere that they talked about using him again in Talons of Weng-Chiang, but for whatever reason they didn't and went with Magnus Greel instead. And I think that would have been quite interesting. If they'd kept him in Weng-Chiang and made him the.
And then he had made or Magnus Greel. The Doctor finds out is the master, just as he's taking a name.
Yeah.
That'd have been interesting. I mean, I think I hold this season is so good because the Face of Evil grew on me as a kid. I didn't like it when I first saw it, and then I've seen it. I've gone, hey, this isn't that bad. I mean, there's some, you could trim it. This could be 3 parts and be tighter. I mean, I have that when I watch it, but then you get, that's Jesus, man. You get Robots of Death, which is Death, and Talons of Weng-Chiang.
Robots of Death top 5 in the whole thing for me. Robots of Death, Fang Rock, Delta and the Bannermen. Yeah, it's Robots of Death is just amazing.
I don't understand why. I mean, I think it's nearly flawless. I know Fang Rock is flawless.
Yeah.
I got that. That's the first one in the newest set we got here, and I watched it. I haven't watched the whole set, but I watched Fang Rock 3 times already.
Yeah, Fang Rock's one that I've got the Blu-ray player set up in the kitchen, and if I'm like tidying up or filing comics or whatever, it's one that'll stick on, and it never diminishes. That's another one that I remember really clearly from when it first went out. The Doctor hanging off the side of the lighthouse and the point of view shots and people dying and all that sort of thing. Leela, and
it's what BBC does better than anybody is. We're just going to build a little set. And we're going to bring the camera in damn close and let the actors do the heavy lifting. Because again, it's a nearly flawed. There's not a bad actor in it.
Yeah, and the BBC was making tons of programs sort of set in that time period at that time. That's why, Weng-Chiang and Horrifying Rock are so effective, because they were making programs like
because I think it's because we were eating it up.
Yeah,
this is like during the heyday of Masterpiece Theater for us. We were buying fuck tons of this stuff.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm my mom's an Anglophile. Because I still feel uncomfortable watching All Creatures Great and Small, because that my mother lusted after Peter Davison in a visceral way. It was like, oh,
yeah.
This one is like that though. This one and through the season is, I could watch, as much as I complain that I had to watch the first 4 seasons of Tom Baker in a loop for years. Yeah. It's not that bad a thing.
No, it's good stuff, and we didn't have that sort of that luxury over here of the endless repeat cycles. And I wasn't involved in Doctor Who organized Doctor Who fandom until I was well into my 20s. So I didn't really know anyone else. I wasn't on the circuit where you could get a loan of, you could borrow videos or get copies of stories. So I didn't see Deadly Assassin again after its repeat till, as I say, it came out in video in October 1991, same day as the double pack of Genesis and the Sontaran Experiment. And watching it again was amazing. Like, as I say, I remember the wee train that reminded us of the miniature railway at Barshaw Park and all the nightmare scenes, and watching it after having seen, the Five Doctors and the Arc of Infinity when I was a little bit younger, and knowing how Baruza was going to play out and all that sort of stuff, and just seeing his version of the Master and seeing that beautiful control room, and seeing Tom on his own was really interesting because he's not really on his own. He still has to discuss and have conversations with.
Yeah, but he doesn't do any. He doesn't. He's never really flippant with the other Time Lords unless it's Egan and the Putz is on the gallery floor. Because when he's dealing with Barusa and Goth and Edgin and the Castellan, he's very. And I like that they do something by taking off the majority of his costume.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing as well.
They put him in leading man clothes.
Yeah.
The shirt's open. Tom's a handsome guy. And he's an athletic guy. At this point, he's an athlete. He's still very athletic and young. I mean, he's not that old. He's 40.
I always wanted a pair of boots like he gets in this story. He wears them for a while in his later stories as well, the Buccaneer boots. But you're right. It's the only time he has the scarf is in the opening scene, and then when he first pops up in the Matrix. And when he first pops up in the Matrix, you think, oh my God, the scarf. He's not been wearing the scarf. And it shows that how when you strip away the cosmetic stuff, you realise how unnecessary it is, how the silly scarf. That's why Colin works so well on Big Finish, because you don't have to look at the coat.
I think it also allows, I don't know if it was a director going, we want to strip off the Doctor when he's traveling is taken on a pretense of how he looks, that he wears a costume. I'm blending it with the humans, and sometimes he gets it right, sometimes he gets it wrong. It's something I liked about in certain times when they have him change to blend in.
Yeah.
And Tom does it a couple times. Wang Chiang, the scarf is not there.
Of course.
It's never. I'm Sherlock Holmes in this.
Yeah.
I'm wearing the deerstalker. We're going to go with this. And I think he was playing with it some. And I like it because in this, he's the action hero. He doesn't have a sidekick.
Yeah.
He's got people he relies upon for information and exposition, and that are actually given stuff to say that's important to say. That even though he's giving you information, but he's doing it in a pleasant comedic manner. It's it's all firing. I might pop this in and watch it again with my wife and go, this is, because she's not watched a lot of modern Who because she got freaked out by the Autons in Rose.
Right.
And I went, that's the point. She watches the Jordan Peele movies, man. I'm like, that freaks you out? I won't watch his movies. I'm like, I'm not watching that. Nope. I'm not going to do well with that. That's going to be like The Exorcist. That's going to
nope, creep me out. But I really didn't like Oz or US or whatever it's called. Logan and I went to see Terrifier 3 this afternoon.
Terrifier 3. What?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of. Everyone knows I'm a big fan of the Conjuring movies because they don't have the excessive amounts of gore that the Terrifier movies do. So yeah, we went to see Terrifier 3, and I watched most of it through my hands because it's so unpleasant.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm more like an Aliens Predator guy. The more gore, I'm not.
Yeah. It was I would not encourage you to watch the Terrifier films.
No. The horror movies I like are very rare. They've got to be in the vein of The Thing or something like that. But I can watch The Thing over and over again.
Yeah, I came to them because I was aware of them, and a couple of people knew had talked about them. But Brandon Peters did a big deep dive on the first two films, and that intrigued me enough to go, right, I want to watch these, and I want to see this new one so I can have opinions and be up to date with what's happening. Because normally I'm a big, a rave about the Conjuring franchise because that's much more in my wheelhouse. It's all.
I might check that out because I like all the people in it, and that they're doing a series that they've done 4 of these things, and they're still doing them.
They're great fun. And then you get the Annabelle films as well, which are the quality of them varies, but they're very enjoyable because they're they're like old, so like Doctor Who of this period that we're discussing. They're very plot heavy and character heavy, and there's no sex or excessive violence or blood and guts. They're very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, we watched the one with the girl, the vampire one that came out recently about the little girl vampire.
Abigail.
Yeah, I loved it because
Yeah, so
it was funny,
yeah,
and I really I liked the cast was being asked to do things they didn't normally get to do, like Kevin Durant playing the kind of simpleton. I liked him. He normally plays action guys, and the guy from it took me forever to realize that the 70s cop guy that seemed like he came out of a John Schlesinger movie is the dude from Downton Abbey.
Dan Stevens. I love him.
Oh my God, I didn't realize he's that good an actor, because I didn't realize it was him until I saw the credits.
You should track down a film called The Guest.
The Guest?
Guest, yeah. Check that out. He's brilliant. Of course, he was in the last King Kong Godzilla movie as well.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him in that either until I saw the credits, because he just was a pleasant, happy hippie dude. I love those films. I have liked all those movies, like that one. I've enjoyed the legacy stuff, the legendary.
I've liked them to varying degrees. I thought the 2014 Godzilla was terrible. I loved Skull Island.
Skull Island, I can watch over and over again. It's just a perfectly fine movie.
I liked the last King Kong, the most recent King Kong Godzilla one. It was out this year. The last one I thought was terrible. It went in one eye and out the other for me. But this last one was very good. I don't know if it's just the mood I'm in when I see them.
I think that's kind of the way I really don't. The first Godzilla movie it needed some work. I liked more the first Kong versus Godzilla than the second one. But I think they're running out of shit to do.
Yeah.
So, but
anyway.
let's finish up with Deadly Assassin, because we're going to go off on more and more tangents. I think it's one of the best Doctor Who's there. I mean, subjective, would it be on my top 5? Maybe not. But if I was going to show, it's one you can show somebody and they don't need to know any of the backstory, because it will all be entertaining. You will find it all out in an entertaining manner.
Yeah.
Because back to the cast is they are given, even the exposition is delivered in an entertaining fashion.
Yeah.
Like it's a real conversation that you're helping, like you're watching a cop show. There's certain, I like all that. And just the level of the acting is so good.
It's beautifully made. You've got David Maloney directing it, who's done lots of Doctor Who by this point. He knows how it works. He gets a good relationship with Tom, brings out the best of him. Because Tom respects David Maloney, he takes it seriously. Written by Robert Holmes, so it's just the dialogue is beautiful, and it's very well structured. I mean, part 3 is arguably a bit of a cheat, because it's they spend all the filming location money and they run about outside. It doesn't really advance the story, but it's exciting and it's memorable and it's dramatic and it's exciting in a way that Doctor Who's never, an adult in a way that Doctor Who's never really done before. There's a lot to like. It's maybe not my, it's maybe my third favorite story that season, but Wang Chang and Robots of Death and Wang Chang are just so good that it just edges them out. It would certainly be top 20 for me overall, I think.
Yeah, I think it's probably the best Gallifrey story of old Who.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Because a lot of times it's like, why are they back in here? It works in 3 Doctors. It works in time. When it's peripheral, it's always better. So, all right, folks. Well, that's it. The next Gallifrey's Most Wanted would be the 5 Doctors, because that's what is up.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I've already got one guest lined up. I'm gonna. I think I need more than one. So when we get to it, because it is such an important story. But I'm looking forward to talking about it, because one time I love it, one time I hate it. It's one of those Doctor Who's. It's it's like, which version am I watching?
Yeah.
Now that I've got the Blu-ray of it. It's got yet another version.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
This new, because we just got season 25 released over here on Monday.
Yeah, God, that's one of my favorite seasons.
It has 4 versions of Silver Nemesis.
Yeah, I don't mind. I watch them all. I've gotten these sets. I put them in and I watch almost every extra
Yeah,
feature.
I've
The
been,
interviews alone are worth it.
I've been quite busy so far this week. I've not a lot because there's been movies I've wanted to catch. So I've finished watching the Behind the Sofa features, and I've watched the interview with Andrew
I love
Cartmel.
the behind the sofas.
I've
For
watched
the most part.
a couple of the little archive snippets. I think once we ring off, I'm going to go and watch the interview with Chris Clough, the Chris Clough, the director, because
Oh,
he
is he
obviously.
getting who is Matthew Sweet interviewing this one?
Well, I think it's Chris Clough and Andrew Cartmel. There might be another one as well. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Those are my favorite things because he will always, about midway through the interview, ask something that has nothing to do about Doc. When he talked about crib death with Colin Baker,
Yeah, yes,
I was like, "You're a fucking genius, dude,"
yeah,
because these things are interesting. He got everybody, and it was nice to see everything I'd ever said about Bonnie Langford, because I've always said she was above the fray and all this crap because one, she didn't care because she's a
yeah,
professional.
yes. Bon,
And you got to see it as I'm a professional, but she loves her work. And there's a reason she's been working since she was a kid.
yeah,
But
I
she was
love.
like going, I can't answer anybody's questions about that because it had nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
And I was only going to be there a year and a half.
yeah, I love Bonnie. She's
I
amazing.
do
Plus,
too.
I
I
met
love
her.
that I'm a big fan of QI. Me and a buddy over here discovered it, and I watched it all. And when Sandy Tolzig took over, and I found out that they're dear friends, and they toured with their one woman shows together.
I didn't know that.
Oh no, she's been on about 3 or 4 times because her and Sandy are buddies.
I didn't know that. I need to try and find them. I've only seen QI occasionally. I don't know why I've never watched it more often because it does appeal. No, first time I think I've met Bonnie once at a convention in 2000, and I was there with a couple of fans who were friends who were fans of the period she was in, and because she's the companion in my favorite story.
Yeah.
And my friend Robert and I took great delight in sort of saying, look, it's so good to see you. We love your stuff. And I don't think many folk would sort of had said that to her. When I saw Spamalot on stage, she was in it. She was the whoever it was that she played. So that was quite good. I'm glad that
She comes into America every once in a while, and they need a Roxy in Chicago. Even at her age, she still comes in and plays.
Yeah,
because she can do she's done it over there. She's done it in Chicago a lot. I think she fills in when they're in between people.
Right. That's good.
Because it's like I can do it. I know all the choreography. She can do it. I'd like to see her and Baby Newirth. Because Baby Newirth has done it because I love her and I love her as Roxy. I've seen clips of her.
No, you'll have to let me come back on and talk about Delta at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've already covered it. I'm about to run out of Sylvester. Gasp. I've run out of Sylvester. I've had to do the novels. So
gasp.
yeah. It took me 30 years to read the first New Adventure. So, but the next one, it has Nazis. It has time travel Nazis. It's all whatever.
It's very Per Degaton. You'll enjoy it.
Oh yeah. Well, do you have any recommendations before we go?
Yeah. Well, as always, I'm going to plug the Brandon Peters show because I love his positive attitude. Our friend Shag Matthews has just started his JSA Presents run on the Justice Society of America in the 90s. I'm going to plug my friend Kenny Smith's Doctor Who podcast, Pieces of Eight and Power of Three, which is basically the Kenny Smith show now, which is fine. I still pop up on it regularly. But Kenny's Infinite Address Book, he gets some amazing guests. We have a lot of good people on recently talking about season 25 because that's just been out.
Oh, cool. I need to catch up on that. I have to. I don't have as much time for listening to other people's podcasts, so I have to jump in and out.
No, and obviously, again, I'll offer a plug to the Earth-2 podcast, available every Thursday. Ross has got a line to record for us.
Oh my God, I'll do that and send it off to Peter later today.
Ross, Brandon, and Steve have been invited to contribute a one-line cameo each. And what's going to be, I think, probably we're going to have a flashback episodes before we do a review of the year, just because it's quite a short story. And Peter found it on a Facebook page and went, all right. And I read it and I went, so I had a copy and I went, all right, let's do this because that'll be interesting. So that'll be a wee surprise the week before, probably our second or third last episode of the year. And Ross is going to play The Flash. So listeners, make sure you check that out.
I played both Flashes now.
This
And
is yeah.
yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited. And I listened to your new episode this morning
Yes, I think we were listening.
about. I had read it was about the stalker. They're on the app. I had
Right.
never read them, and I
Ah,
randomly read them about 2 months ago
right,
because it popped up as new on the thing, and I went, "What is this?" I didn't realize it was Paul Levitz,
right.
and I saw you read the email, the letters page where someone said that Steve Ditko, Wally Wood's art was terrible. I want to build a time machine and slap him.
Yeah,
What are you
yeah,
fucking saying?
it's brilliant.
Wally, Ditko 70s.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Wally and him, those are pretty comic books.
Oh no.
I
It's
never put it together until I read that. And then I went back to the JSA story that you guys referenced in the prequel stuff.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Because I don't think Steve had twigged that. I think Steve said much that he didn't realize that Stalker wasn't a pre-existing character before they used him in the JSA returns. This will make perfect sense to all the Doctor Who fans that don't know anything about the Justice Society.
oh yeah. Well, no, it's hey, I loved it. It was folks. I was nice to see something. We had those comics. My brother bought it because it had Ditko in it, so I remember reading them. It was very interesting. I recommend it.
When you posted your clip of you listening to it, I was only about 5 minutes behind you. We were listening at the same time for once.
Oh my god! I got up. My wife left. I put my phone, tied it to the TV so I could walk around and do chores and get the dogs ready to go for a walk. It was a thing. All right, Dave. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Yes, we've got other things. When we're saying goodbye, I do want to run something by you about the other podcast because I was looking at what's coming up and you're going to be busy. So
yes, I'm going to be busy.
Yeah. All right, folks. As always, thank you for listening. We look forward to seeing you somewhere in time or space.